The Swedish model irritates Elon Musk. And according to the snippet here, it seems to be irritating him or concerning him more than the White House. That's interesting. That's interesting. Why can't I show you? All of these articles are, of course, in Swedish, and that's behind a paywall. Thanks for that. Was that? No, that's me. Okay. But I'm gonna do my best. I'm just gonna see. Wasn't there an English article? Tesla strike. Let's see. You know what? Why don't we read this article and I will fill in the blanks that I am aware of, at least. There are a few global companies around the world. There are a few companies around the world that have gotten attention for their anti-union stance. Amazon is probably the most well-known, at least in the Western world. Name a Chinese company. Just toss a stone towards a Chinese company, and you'll hit a union breakers. And then there's Tesla, of course. Tesla. We can't rule out Tesla, but Tesla, while they're not the only company, the other two happen to be Swedish companies, actually, but it's probably the biggest company. It is the biggest company to try anti-union busting in Sweden. The morons. There are two other companies. We have Klarna, which is just a payment company. That's all they are. Which Snoop Dogg has made ads for. These are ads for the Swedish-based Klarna Smooth Payments, okay? And then there is a very well-known company, though most people probably don't know that it is Swedish, actually. This guy, Daniel Ek, Swede. Sorry to be the one to break it for you, if you didn't already know. But these and Klarna, Swedish-based companies that are both strike breakers. But now, and there's a big difference here, there's a big reason why this is getting news while the two others isn't. Let's read it, and I'll illuminate it when it happens. Swedish unions are joining in blockade and targeted strikes against the U.S. automaker over its refusal to sign a collective bargaining agreement with its mechanics. That's the point. It's mechanics. There's no similarity in terms of robustness, in terms of institutionalization as the old Swedish unions. They are heavily connected to political parties. They have a large influence over politics in general. If they want to, like, they will shut down your company. In modern, like Klarna and with Spotify in the IT world, there's no such thing, unfortunately. And what is happening here is also that there are a bunch of other unions tangential to the mechanics unions that are like, you're threatening our unions. If you don't sign a collective bargaining agreement with this union, then our employers are going to get ideas, and we can't have that. So it's better to just shut it down now and move on. Unions across Sweden said on Tuesday that they would support an effort to pressure Tesla to sign a collective bargaining agreement, with its 120 mechanics joining a campaign to defend a model of organized labor that many Swedes say is essential to the country's economic success and stability. And the model that we have here in Sweden, and I think in Norway and Finland. I don't know about Denmark. Denmark's a bit weird when it comes to unions. When it comes to work in general, at least for a Nordic country. But the model we have is that the state butts the fuck out. We have protection for what is considered full-time hours. We have mandated or in law 40 hours maximum for full-time employment. We have in law how you can have part-time employees. After a certain amount of time, they've worked a stable percentage of full-time work. You are guaranteed an employment, not a hourly employment, but a permanent employment of that percentage after a certain time. We have laws regarding, I think we have laws regarding maximum total amount of hours worked. Like you can't work 200 hours a month or something like that. You know, there's a total amount of cap on total amounts worked. But when it comes to how labor is organized, when it comes to how much we're paid, how we are to engage with our employers or employers, yeah, stuff like that. States has to butt out. Like you can't. There's also you can't ask. Oh, sorry, the wrong one. You can't ask for you can't ask for cards. You can't card your employees. See, that's also a staple of the Swedish model. Now, that would be threatened if the corporation and the union cannot get to the table. Like, at all. Can't even get to the table. It's been years. I think 3 years that the union has tried to get Tesla to the table to start negotiations, and they've refused. Now, that's going to threaten. That's going to mean that eventually the state is going to go, Tesla, what the fuck are you doing? We're going to have to put a boot down here. At least the left-wing government. We'll see. Dock workers said they would expand their blockade of their automaker's shipment to all ports in Sweden next week. After launching the action at 4 key locations, the electricians union said its members would stop receiving Tesla charging stations when they needed a repair. Stop servicing Tesla's charging station when they needed a repair. And maintenance workers said they wouldn't clean Tesla facilities. Like, every fucking union is like, Tesla, come on, what the fuck are you doing? And this is why a high union percentage of your workers in a country is important. Why the US has been so thoroughly fucked, because you haven't had strong unions. Collective bargaining is one thing. Sympathetic blockades Now that's a different. Now that's how you force a company to their feet. On Monday, the EF Metall, that's the metal workers union, which represents 300,000 workers across the country, including the Tesla mechanics, said its talks with company representative had ended without resolution. The union began the strike action at Tesla 12 service centers on Tesla's 12 service centers on October 27th. Tesla, which entered Sweden in 2013, did not respond to a request for comment. The company told Sweden's TT news agency that it followed Swedish labor market rules but had chosen not to sign a collective agreement. They are following the rules. They are not following the traditions. They're not following the norm. They are breaking massively from the norm in Sweden. It is unfortunate that EF Metall has taken these measures, Tesla told TT in an emailed statement. We already offer equivalent or better agreements than those covered by collective bargaining, and they can continue to do so, but they can't do it without a collective bargaining agreement, okay? Still have to have that as a fallback, but if they want to expand beyond that, that's perfectly fine. They can't do it without a union. I'm sorry. They cannot do it without the fucking union. My brother-in-law, he's a mechanic. He's a new mechanic. He's a newly minted mechanic. And I asked him the other day, are you in a union? Are you in a union? He's like, no, not yet, but I'm gonna. I considering what's happening, I'm gonna have to be. Yeah, this is why you need a union. Tesla also said it was committed to remaining available to our customers during the strike. That's called hiring strike breakers. That appeared to be the case on Tuesday at a Tesla facility in Segeltorp, a suburb of Stockholm, where customers were dropping off and picking up their cars and mechanics were seen coming and going. They declined to speak with a reporter. EF Metall said it believes that Tesla has hired outside workers to replace striking workers, but this could not be independently confirmed because Tesla wouldn't allow it, of course. We know that Tesla has people who are not part of the ordinary workforce working in some locations, said Jesper Pettersson, the union's spokesman. Some Tesla owners arriving to have their cars serviced appear to be nonplussed. Can I get a pronunciation, perhaps? Is that an acceptable thing these days? Nonplussed, okay. Seems to be nonplussed by the labor actions. It should be up to the company whether it signs collective bargaining agreement, said Karin Bjarle, 42, an e-commerce entrepreneur who had the bulbs in her headlights replaced. The unions supporting EF Metall's cause said they were trying not only to improve working conditions for mechanics employed by Tesla, but to defend Sweden's long-standing system of organized labor in which employers and employees work together to reach consensus on wages, benefits, and working hours. And that's the key point here. Tesla does not want you to have insight into how well their company does, because that is partially what a union grants you. The union has lawyers and economists that can go over their documents and say, hey, you've made this much, you take this much from our workers, we think we demand more, we deserve more than that. And then they can start their negotiations. Tesla doesn't want that. Tesla wants to negotiate from the dark. But this is what all other employers get paid over there. Yeah, but you're doing so much better, so we want more. Is that really that unreasonable? Apparently. Such agreements cover about 90% of workers in Sweden. If we let this go, it puts a crack in the whole system, said Tommy Wreeth, head of the Swedish Transport Workers Union, who went to Södertälje Harbor, south of Stockholm, to rally union members around the block against Tesla. This isn't just about the metal workers and transport workers unions. He said. This is important because the whole Swedish model is at stake. The transport union said last week that it would refuse to unload any Teslas arriving by ship to 4 large Swedish ports beginning Tuesday, after it learned that Tesla was rerouting shipments to other ports. The union said it expanded its job action to block such shipments to all Swedish ports starting November 17, unless an agreement is reached. On Tuesday, it was unclear if any shipments of Teslas were scheduled to arrive or were turned away at the ports. Mans Frostel, chief executive at Södertälje Port, said Södertälje received an average of 1,200 cars a week. There were no Tesla cars in this week's shipment. Elon Musk, Tesla's chief executive, has repeatedly pushed back against calls to unionize by his 127,000 employees around the world. But IF Metall and its supporters argue that Tesla's employees lack the annual wage increases in insurance and pension coverage and other benefits they would receive if they were under an industry-wide collective agreement. Tesla must accept the rules of the Swedish labor market, and in Sweden we use collective agreements, said Mikael Pettersson, head of negotiations at Elektrikerna, the electricians union. Elektrikerna said its members would not provide any service or repairs at Tesla's 213 charging stations across Sweden starting November 17th. If something breaks, no one will fix it, the union said in a statement. Cleaning staff at Tesla's facilities in the Stockholm area, and one in Umeå in northern Sweden will also start staying home from their jobs on that date, the Swedish Building Maintenance Workers Unions said. Not only unions are joining in the action. Taxi Stockholm, which advertised its adherence to the collective agreement system, said it would cease all new orders of Teslas for its fleet. It's good they're taking these actions, said Jesper Nordgaard, 29, a member of the transport union who works at the port of Södertälje. My question is, why didn't they do it sooner? That's a great question, Jesper. Fantastic question. This was actually a good article. It covered 90% of the things, probably. Yeah, it's that's the state of unions and Tesla specifically in Sweden. When Amazon got here, what happened there? I think they caved. There was one guy who was fired in a way that would have been legal in America, but that was without a doubt illegal in Sweden. I wonder why we haven't done this collective punishment. Supportive striking against Amazon. It seems like it's been dead for a year. That's interesting. I didn't search for this. I searched for Amazon, but I got something about Musk. The Swedish model irritates Elon Musk. And according to the snippet here, it seems to be irritating him or concerning him more than the White House. That's interesting. I haven't read that before, but it wouldn't surprise me. The strike at the Tesla workshop in Uppsala and other companies and the company's other workplaces in Sweden is described as the usual struggle between anti-union American companies and the cherished Swedish model. But in the background, a bigger battle awaits between the entire Western market economy and an industry, the tech sector, which considers itself a little above things like states, laws, and international agreements. If it was just about the collective bargaining agreement, Tesla would soon lose, just like the toy chain Toys R Us in the 1990s, and many other companies since. The union has every right to take industrial action against companies that refuse to sign a collective agreement. Together with sympathy measures from other sectors, it eventually becomes unsustainable to conduct business in Sweden. There is no law against ignoring collective agreements. Companies with around 80% of all employers still find it a good idea to sign such, as they have served both sides of the labor market well. Wage formation generally works well, and the number of strike days in Sweden is very low internationally. Those outside the agreement are largely small businesses with seasonal employees. For example, in the restaurant industry, when the union starts actions and boycotts against them and perhaps forces them to close, it is bad advertising for the Swedish model. With Tesla, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Klarna, the situation a little different. In the spring, Spotify began negotiations on collective agreements, really, with several large unions. In August, they pulled out on the grounds that the employees will be better off without these agreements. It is basically the same argument as the nail salon or the summer restaurant. They want the employees' well-being, give them good conditions, and just want to avoid the superstructure with union negotiations in time and out of time. Good terms. Now, yes, the union thinks, as long as everything goes well. The very Swedish wording there. It doesn't really translate that well when you just directly translate it. Another Swedish tech giant, Klarna, does not want to sign a collective agreement for the same reason. The union and Sweden's engineers have therefore announced a strike at Klarna's headquarters in 1 week. That should be now. Klarna strike. Oh, they signed the agreement. Okay. Let's go back to this first. Tesla, Amazon, and Google are following the development with interest. The European Commission and the US Congress should do the same. It is about a group of companies that have grown larger than many countries, which have so far not been able to be tamed with digitalization, competition, or tax legislation. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the others do not take orders from easily controlled politicians with electoral agendas. They want to shape everyone's future themselves, and they are well on their way to succeeding. The Swedish model is a small grain of sand in the global machinery. But right now, the pickets in Fyrislund are rubbing shoulders at least as much. Not a good translation here. But the pickets in Fyrislund are grinding. Grinding is probably grinding at least as much as Washington or Brussels. Very, very interesting. But here, it seems like the strike at Klarna. That's reader mode. That's pinboard. I don't have translation here. Have been called off because they found a way, like they always seem to. Oh my God, we have money under the mattress over here, huh? Oh well, here you go. Please don't do a strike. Don't strike. I like my money. I want to keep the money flowing in. If we stop the money flowing, then people will realize we don't have anything. 21 hours ago, a researcher says that Spotify will bend. They will fall. Victory! Klarna's decision to sign a collective agreement may inspire more people to join a union and give increased faith that collective agreements are possible, say researchers. But it can take months or years. On Friday, Klarna signed a collective agreement with the financial union, and after months of negotiations with the union, a strong contributing factor to their success was that enough people at the workplace became members of the union. That's according to Anders Kjellberg, professor of sociology at Lund University, who researched collective agreements and the Swedish model. Without sufficient membership base, the battle would have become a blow in the air. A blow in the air. A punch in the air. A fart in the ocean. A drop in the ocean. A fart in the wind. The involved unions, Unionen, Sweden's engineers and Akavia. I've never heard of Akavia. Academics union, okay, are now working on several fronts to get international companies in newer industries such as tech to enter into collective agreements. Google and Meta, Facebook and Instagram parent company, Alphabet then. If we're going to say Meta, we're going to have to say Alphabet. If we're going to say Google, we can just say Facebook. Whatever. For example, lack collective agreements. At Spotify, negotiations have both started and paused during the year. The union states that they have Meta under supervision, whatever that means. Sweden's engineers have members in 3 to 4 companies that want the employer to sign a collective agreement, and in a couple of them, negotiations have begun. The classes have attracted interest among members of such companies. We received tips that they want a collective agreement because they have seen that it is possible at Klarna, says Camilla Frankelius, head of negotiations at Sweden's engineers to Dagens Arena. But okay, it seems hopeful. It seems hopeful. That's some Swinglish for you. It seems hopeful when we're looking at unions in Sweden. There was a time in the past where I was hesitant. I was worried about Swedish union efforts or the unions in Sweden.